S.T.A.L.K.E.R, the Ukrainian first-person shooter survival horror series made by GSC Game World, has quite an interesting world and a development background that's even more interesting. As you can tell, I'll be doing another Iceberg made by a different person, of course, but I won't go through the same things that we covered on the previous video. As well, of course, there will be spoilers, so if you're playing the games or want to experience the story for yourself, click off the video. And now, let's get started.
I have a couple of missions for you.
Shattered Chernobyl's true ending is when you discover that you are indeed S.T.A.L.K.E.R and the Wish Granter is a lie propped up by C consciousness, as well as you learn more about the death trucks and why you were sent back into the zone. They then offer you a chance to join their project to help stop the zone's expansion, but you refuse, which leads you to fighting your way out and not only killing the elite monolith but destroying the whole project. You then get teleported into a grassy area where S.T.A.L.K.E.R thinks to himself, did he make the right choice or not? Call of Chernobyl is a very popular mod for Call of Pripyat that adds in cut maps like Darkscape and Dead City, and also new maps like a graveyard area for vehicles, and you also have the ability to play all 9 factions, even the Renegades. But there's nothing really that I could talk more about the mod, minus the fact that it got Mod of the Year back in 2015. Like, you really need to be living under a rock not to know about Color Chernobyl, I'm not gonna lie. In S.T.A.L.K.E.R Shattered Chernobyl, there is a VSS somewhere in the Freedom Base, an army warehouse, where you can just pick it up and take it. In Clear Sky, there's a collapsed train tunnel in Corridon, where you cannot just enter in regularly. You would have to jump into the space bubble anomaly by the railway bridge to enter the tunnel. In S.T.A.L.K.E.R Shattered Chernobyl, there is a very big stash of 9x19 by the vehicle graveyard in Garbage. You would have to shoot below the watchtower for all of it to fall down. Also, in Garbage and in Shattered Chernobyl, you can go into the train tunnel by the train hangar to get a modified MP5 that shoots 9x19 rounds instead of the 9x18 rounds it can shoot. Stalker Anomaly is a recent big mod that's similar to Color Chernobyl, but includes new storylines as well as a massive modification to A-Life, like the inclusion of updates from stalkers and unique behaviors. In early game Shattered Chernobyl, you could usually bribe the military to cross a railway bridge, but if you kill Major Kutsunov, a new group will take his place, and they do not accept bribes, as well as they will shoot you on sight.
You gotta help us, bro! These uptight faggots are dipping us in some stinky shit!
Build 1935 was one of the earlier builds that weren't actually leaked, but released by GSC Game Worlds themselves. It introduced levels we all know and love for the first time, as well as cut levels like the generators in Dead City. A very important thing to write down, there was an early version of the swamps from Clear Sky introduced as well as this was the first time we saw the Buer and Chimera mutant as well. Dead City is a cut area from S.T.A.L.K.E.R Shattered Chernobyl, just like Dark Valley. It's located by Yantar and Limansk. The populace would mostly be mercenaries and bandits, and weirdly enough, in build 1935, there were zombies. A few notable things to mention is that in the story, you were supposed to be captured by mercenaries, then later on fight one of the leaders, and also you were supposed to save Doc. Some of this may sound familiar if you have played Lost Alpha. Dead City will come up again soon, as there was a mutant planned to be in Dead City. At the very start of the game in Shattered Chernobyl, Sidorovich can offer you a Gurza randomly at the price of 20k rubles. This is a popular theory that Karen, a high-ranking monolith, in Shattered Chernobyl is the main character of Clear Sky, the one and only Mercenary Scar. This is mostly due to the fact that we don't know what happens to him after the massive blowout at the end of Clear Sky, but he could have been brainwashed into being a monolith, and also the fact that they both use the AS-BAL. Personally, I sort of believe that he could be Scar, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure he died at the end of Clear Sky. The only thing that's really backing up this theory is just really that they use the same gun. I really don't know what they're trying to say in this entry, but if I do assume there are 25 different types of artifacts you can collect, you would have to go to every 28 different anomalies to collect every single artifact in the game, not including the mainline as well as side quest ones. Throughout all three of the games, there has been a looting, as well as major concern that the zone is expanding. Like when Clear Sky mentions that every massive blowout that happens, the zone expands a little bit more, or how Sea Consciousness tried creating the pods to try to halt the zone's expansion. New Arsenal is a Shattered Chernobyl overhaul mod that adds in new maps, new guns, as well as new items, yet it still follows the original vanilla storyline. In Limansk, there is a secret room blocked off where there is a teleportation machine inside. It is referencing a Russian sci-fi show called Guest from the Future, and it's honestly just like a small, nice reference they've placed in. This one is a little hard to do, but if you rush all the way to the duty outpost in Garbage and kill as many mutants as you can get a better message saying thank you instead of being a complete asshole to you, because no matter what they fucking do, they're still dogs near Rostock because they're shit at their job.
Is that change I still hear jingling in your pockets? Well, is it?
Narodnaya Solyanka 2016, or Stalker Soup. It is a Shattered Chernobyl mod that gives the main storyline a twist with new missions, weapons, the addition of cut maps, and new ones as well. The mod was made in Russian, but there is a hand-translated English version that's still being worked on in ModDB. I played this mod on stream, and you're seeing footage of it right now. It's pretty fun, and I do recommend if you're looking for a new way to experience the original storyline. The track that you're listening right now is Sleeping in the Ashes 1. It was composed by MoozE, of course. This appears in the Shattered Chernobyl promotional soundtrack, and you can download it for free, of course. This one's a quick, simple one. You get more money if you go do the car park mission without any help. Lift is a cut anomaly that is practically harmless and would just lift you in the air for a bit. It is still in the Pripyat Stadium, though. Build 1865 was mostly used to test the A-Life AI, and interestingly enough, there were different versions of the maps that they had, like Cordon Garbage and Dark Valley. If you have played Lost Alpha, these maps would have looked extremely familiar. The minigun was a cut weapon that was used in old builds of Stalker, and originally was supposed to be a mainline gun in Oblivion Lost. Back when Stalker 2 was in dev hell, there was a story and map leak that was shown off to the internet. The story would follow a man who's called into the zone by his dreams, and after the events of Call of Pripyat, the zone would be more corporated, and the inclusion of legal and illegal stalkers would also play a factor. There's a lot of things I can't cover in this video, like Strelok being assassinated, and turns out it's not actually the real Strelok, or Lukesh actually being the antagonist. I'll link a good video covering this, as well as the Reddit thread. Rusty Hair Anomaly was a cut anomaly in which metal surfaces would have a rust coating, and when you would touch it, your body would basically start to corrode. This is also a reference to the cotton anomaly effect in Roadside Picnic. If you don't know this, helicopters can take damage and be shot down. There are so many examples on YouTube of people shooting down helicopters or people just going to the glitched copter in Yantar. There was a cut PDA entry in Lab X16, and a suicide note would be left by one of the scientists of X16 who talks about his endeavors after the brain in Yantar goes AWOL. He is trapped in a room that's psi protected for weeks, and after he runs out of food and water, he prepares to kill himself before finishing the suicide note. What's interesting about the note is how he talks about the effects of the Yantar brain has on others. The psi radiation from the Yantar brain would try to command him to kill any outsiders and defend the brain, just like the mutants and zombified stalkers you see all around X16.
A transformer. I remember these from my childhood.
Pripyat's apartments in early development had fully modeled interiors back in 2003, but they were cut before the creation of Build 1558. I believe this entry is referring to the cut artifact Mercury Ball that was featured in Build 1844. This was really just a questline artifact, just like the one from Clear Sky. Oblivion Lost Remake is a restoration project around the original 2003 version of Oblivion Lost. The project is still being worked on, but they have made a lot of significant progress. This one was a little hard to find any information on, but I assume it's talking about when stalkers would enter the Black Forest, or the Brain Scorcher. They're turned into an animal-like state before sea consciousness turns them into fanatical defenders of the monolith. The Monolith War Lab was a cut area in Shattered Chernobyl that was where the sea consciousness experiment was resided in. The fact is, it can't be in the CNPP, and it would have to be near the Brain Scorcher due to the fact that they built the whole Brain Scorcher just to protect sea consciousness and they can do their own experiments in peace. The marsh parts for the swamp was going to appear in Shattered Chernobyl, and it does appear in Build 1935, but was cut later in development. The Dead were a bandit group that was supposed to show up in Shattered Chernobyl, but were unfortunately cut. Their location was supposed to be in the old Dark Valley and would guard Lab X18. Strangely enough, they also assisted the Monolith in the Dark Valley. They're similar to another cut faction called the Black Slugs, but we're going to talk a little bit more about Old Dark Valley soon. Manpads was a cut rocket launcher that was going to be inside one of the APCs. It was scrapped due to the fact that it's a lock-on rocket launcher, so you can only have a few targets to use it on. Savior is a fan-named character for the red-haired guy who saved Strelok from the death truck. He could be a reference to Red from Roadside Picnic. Weirdly enough, we only see him once in the cutscene and never again. Old Dark Valley was created in Build 1835 and had a lot of interesting changes, like a mini garbage dump, bases for the Black Slugs, and for the Dead. If you don't know this, actually, Rostock Factory is based on a real-life factory of the same name near GSC's office in Kiev.
Твоя цель здесь. Иди ко мне.
Stalker testAMB is another track made by MoozE, and was the first track MoozE made for Stalker to try to get a feel on how he was going to make the soundtrack. The journalist was a cut character that was supposed to appear in Stalker Oblivion Lost. He was a well-known journalist that disappeared looking for some documents in the zone. Later on in the storyline, you were supposed to find out that not only you were Strelok, but also the journalist. The old Stalker 2 dev document had a proposition of having a journalist character in the zone who was trying to gather information on the zone. He would later then be revealed to be an ecologist undercover and betray the player in Pripyat. He is mentioned in another propositional storyline, but we'll get to that in a sec. But I do hope we do see a iteration of him in the next Stalker 2. Honestly, this entry really did throw me in for a loop. but I'm pretty sure they're talking about the decayed bodies in the zone, which would look like they're in a fossilized state. If you take a quick look at these bodies, they look like they've been there for years, but if you remember by the crashed truck, that literally happened not that long ago, so I'm pretty sure it happens because of severe radiation. The parasite was a cut mutant that would be able to control blind dogs and humans. They were most definitely based off the Half-Life head crabs. They would have resided in Dead City as well as in Yantar, protecting the creature in the fog. There's only concept art and no actual models that were created. In an old build, someone straight up used porn to test out the TVs. Some mods added it back in. It's kind of hilarious thinking about someone thought, hey, let's use porn to test the in-game TVs. S.T.A.L.K.E.R possibly could have joined C Consciousness and had a body double replace him, and we see him in Call of Pripyat. But I doubt this theory because if S.T.A.L.K.E.R joined the experiment, then why is the zone still expanding? But we're about to talk a little bit more about fake S.T.A.L.K.E.R in a bit. The theory is that Mark 1 isn't actually S.T.A.L.K.E.R due to the fact that at the beginning of the game he has the Stalker tattoo, and at the end of the true ending he doesn't. There's also different voices in all 3 games, but voice actors in video games are always like that. If you think about it, it would make a lot more sense if C Consciousness creates an imposter to infiltrate the research team that was made at the end of Call of Pripyat to keep tabs on, since, you know, they want to do their experiments in peace. In the old Stalker 2 leaked document, they did have a plot where the S.T.A.L.K.E.R that was killed wasn't actually the real one. So they might use that in Stalker 2 in my personal opinion. There was also an proposed ending where they had Marked 1 and S.T.A.L.K.E.R as totally different people. Children of the Zone was a proposed ending where C Consciousness abducted children for replacements for their experiment. The journalist would discover this and would be led into different rooms by one of the missing children. In the end, the journalist would have been caught by C Consciousness, and they would leave him deformed and unrecognizable. All of this would have been in a cutscene, but unfortunately, we don't have any concept art of what he would have probably looked like, severely deformed, but I'm pretty sure he's mutated. Scene_plan.doc was a planned story for the 2003 storyline in the design document. The dream manuscripts are probably the dream sequences that were planned inside the 2003 design documents. This was one of the planned endings for the design document, where S.T.A.L.K.E.R and Marked 1 were totally different people, and S.T.A.L.K.E.R was a part of C Consciousness. While S.T.A.L.K.E.R is telling the origins of the zone to Marked 1, there are a group of military bombers about to bomb the generators, while Marked 1 is destroying the vats like in Shadow Chernobyl. Because of the generator is holding back the amount of anomalous energy in the zone, it creates a small black hole. And when the military bombers are bombing the generators, it releases a massive emission, which causes a nuclear explosion, killing everyone. I shit you fucking not. It's fucking based. Hey everyone, thank you for finishing the video. It did took me a bit to get everything out of the way. I was busy with some real life stuff, I got really sick, but I'm glad I got this video done and out of my chest. I know while I was making this video, the Stalker 2 footage was shown off on E3, and I'm honestly looking forward to how it would, like, you know, the zone will be. Because, like, you know, we got the swamps again. Hopefully, like, you know, we can get some, like, interesting stuff, like, you know, clear sky, or, you know, some of the stuff that I've talked about in this Iceberg. But, yeah, I'm very optimistic about it. But I know earlier this year, Stalker 2, the build for it got leaked. Or, like, the 2011 build, my bad. I do want to try to play that on stream and or like upload it here on YouTube, but I feel like it might get taken down because like I know for the original Stalker 2 story, the leak, it did get like one of the Russian videos did get taken down. So I don't know if I will or will not, but I'll try to get my hands on that. I do hope that the audio quality is better on now. And again, I'm sorry that I sound like very monotone, just like the monolith. But either way, thank you again for watching the video. I hope you guys have a good day and afternoon.